Welcome to the Hashed Out Spotlight. I'm Dan Tarker, one of the co-hosts of this, and Jodah Jensen should be joining us in a few minutes. And we are here with Mitch Rankin, who is one of the co-founders of Forward Protocol, among other startups. And we're going to learn a little bit about his work in the Web 3.0 blockchain space. So, Mitch, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, Dan, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So before we jumped on the air, you said you were spending half your time, well, 3 months of the year off some islands in the off of India. So you want to tell me a little bit about that and where you're at right now and where you spend the rest of your time when you're not there?
Yeah, sure. So started quite a while back. We actually homeschooled our kids, myself and my wife, and we started following the wind. We've got a family
Following
of
the
watermen.
wind.
Yeah. So we basically,
I love that.
we're all kite surfers.
Oh.
And yeah, so we spend 5 months of the year in Cape Town.
Okay.
From November through to March, and that's over the windy season. That's the most consistent wind anywhere in the world for those 5 months.
Wow.
And then we sort of bounce between. So Seychelles for 3 months is not 3 months consistently. It's like 3 different trips. And we actually come and we live on a yacht here. So we sail around the islands and we fish and dive and do all those sort of nice things.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah, we really are fortunate. It's a wonderful way to actually pass your day.
Yeah, I'll trade lives with you.
You have to come and visit.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. So what got you into kite surfing?
You know, as a youngster, I used to spearfish, and then the wind would blow from the northeast. I lived on the east coast of Africa, and in South Africa, in a town called Durban. And whenever the northeast blew, I couldn't go and spearfish. And then kiting came along, and I thought, man, wouldn't that be cool? You know, when the northeast blows, you can go and kite surf, and then when the southwest blows, you can go and spearfish. And that's how it sort of picked up. And that was cheap, and that's a long time ago, nearly 25 years ago. So we've been kiting a long time.
Wow, that's incredible. I guess, you know, so you work in the Web 3.0 space as an entrepreneur. How did you get involved in this technology, and how does it fit into your lifestyle? Because it sounds like it gives you the freedom to travel and pursue your interests like kite surfing.
Yeah, you know, Dan, it's our sort of, I'll go to the lifestyle second and I'll answer your first question. In about 2015, my sort of background is real estate, and I've been involved in building mixed use properties in South Africa and in Florida in the States, and commercial, residential, and hotel. And I was looking for something online, something that would give me a little bit more flexibility, something that, and it came out of reading a book that Peter Diamandis wrote called Bold, where he just spoke about the rise of the internet and 1 billion more people coming online, and then having like a purpose with the next business you look at, like try and find something that can actually make a contribution. And I thought, man, I mean, I'm not even an online guy at that point in time. I had very, very limited social presence. LinkedIn was non-existent. I really was like an electronic or an online Neanderthal. And I started learning and looking. And
I think you froze up there, Mitch.
And business to buy website. A business that it's actually the largest Learn English community online. Today we've had 310 million users.
Wow! And can you repeat what
I bought that business
is called? You bought that business? Sorry, you're cutting out a little bit.
Okay. You asked the question?
Yeah, I was going to ask if you could name that English language business that you bought, because you're cutting out a little bit. So I just want to make sure the listeners could pick that up.
Yeah, sure.
Hmm. Hey,
What's
Philip.
called English. Still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it's basically a community website, and it's run by moderators. And
Okay.
I looked at ways that particular business. And I looked
Hmm.
at lots of different ways. I looked at affiliate marketing. I looked at membership websites, etc., etc. And one of the things that I looked at was actually blockchain. That's how I discovered blockchain and actually got interested in the space. It wasn't the other way around. And through the process of, looking for consultants, looking for people to build sort of incentive reward type mechanism architectures, etc. And I went through a lot of different people in the first sort of year. Spent a lot of money, learned a lot of hard mistakes, but I got smart pretty quickly, and I ended up finding a guy that I hired as a consultant, Karnika Yashwa, and you might have actually spoken to Mr. Key.
Oh, I know Mr. Key.
And yeah, so that was my sort of journey. Is I'd met lots of people that told me lots of different stories, and then when I met Key, he basically told me the truth, and that
What
was
was
the
Mr.
beginning
Key's
of.
truth?
He didn't build us me at all. He basically said, "This is what you need to do." He showed me; it made sense, and he actually stuck around while I learned.
Okay.
He wasn't quick to put his hand out and take my money, which was good. And after about 8 months, he sort of saw what I was trying to do with education, and basically getting it and using blockchain as a mechanism to incentivize learning across places like Southeast Asia and Africa, and really tapping into a market that is completely underserved, and using English as the bridge essentially to
Interesting.
just an interesting fact that you might and yet 50% of the content on YouTube is in English.
Yeah.
So there are people alive today that, purely because they don't know language, can't get hold of the content they need to solve their problems. The content is already there. It's already created. They just don't know how to access it. And that
Right.
was my idea. It was like, imagine if we could help 1 billion people just learn fundamental English, where they could go into YouTube and learn and basically solve their problems at a local level. They could literally go and do courses and things like that. And if you incentivize that learning, you could obviously get a lot more technical and incorporate it into various syllabus with schools, universities, etc. And I started thinking how we could use blockchain to actually incentivize those students and the teachers and the schools to put that together. And that's where Mr. Key actually started helping me think through that process, show me how to do it, etc.
What do you mean? So I come from a higher ed background. I have a lot of experience teaching English and ESL, English as a
Okay.
second language. And
Yeah.
so when you use the term incentivize the students and the faculty and teachers, what does that mean? What do you mean by incentivize, and how does blockchain help you incentivize them?
So essentially, imagine in the blockchain world, obviously, you have a wallet which is attached to a person. And then on the platform, you have a course, and it's a basic English language course. As a school, you could say, we're teaching this course, and what we're going to do for Dan's wallet is we're going to put $100 into Dan's wallet. And that money, that funding could come from friends, from family. It could come from the World Health Organization. It could come from UNESCO. It doesn't matter where the funds come from. And the incentive for Dan is that if he completes this course, he unlocks the money.
Okay.
So what you're basically doing is you can actually put in measured milestones. So you could unlock it in modules. You could say there are 5 different modules. When he unlocks module 1, he gets $20, module 2, 20, etc. And if he unlocks all 5 and he passes with over a 75% aggregate, you're going to give him a bonus of $50, for example. And that money can sit in his wallet where he can actually see it. So now he's actually got an incentive.
And this is crypto, right? I mean, this is like Bitcoin. Correct. Yeah, okay. And so the money has to come from somewhere, right? To invest in these students. So how do you, because I mean, yeah, for sure. I guess even outside of the blockchain world and typical terrestrial education settings, one of the biggest barriers to student completion and success is financing, right? Being able to pay for their basic needs, food, housing, things like that while they're pursuing their education, right? But we have financial aid for that, where the government provides loans and grants and so forth to pay for students to do their education. So that's coming from the government. In this case, it's kind of a similar model, except you don't get your reward until you actually do something, you complete something. So you're getting it on the back end instead of the front. So I got a couple questions about that. One, again, where is that money coming from? And I'll follow up with some other financial questions after that.
Yeah, sure. So just to frame this for you, what we're talking about now is where we started with this process.
Okay.
As we started putting these ideas out, like talking to guys like you, talking to different partners. We've got a partnership with the Oxford and Cambridge Blockchain Society on the education side. With many partners, we found that people were asking us about this particular mechanism and what we were doing in blockchain, and asking if it would be relevant to other sectors, other industries like e-commerce or whatever. So we almost put the English language on the back burner, and we focused on the commercial aspect of actually putting the nuts and bolts together to create a platform. And I think for your conversation today, I'll talk about the or forward protocol would be more relevant.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in the platform, and I just have to let you know you're still cutting out, so we're missing chunks. But let's talk about forward protocol and how that fits into this. So my understanding is it's a web development platform, right? Kind of a website builder. So describe forward protocol to me, and how does it fit into the work you're doing with education?
Okay, so education aside, they're not related at all.
Okay, sorry. Since we're cutting out, I'm missing parts of what you're sharing. Sorry. Are you still there, Philip? I mean, Mitch?
Yeah, I am.
Before we go to forward protocol, then let's get back to the education one, because I'm interested in that, and then we'll jump to forward protocol. So partnerships that you've built up a platform to teach English. What is the difference between teaching English using a blockchain framework or blockchain technology rather, versus doing it in a regular online learning tools?
There's no real difference, Dan. It's more the incentivization model. So a dollar you can split 100 different ways. A token you can split a lot more than that. So it allows you to make micro payments. You can actually incentivize a larger audience. And I mean, one of the other ways that obviously on the platform English Forward, we have Google Ads and we get advertising revenue. At this point in time, each of those pages, and some of the pages have got like 3 million views, for example, they attract a lot of advertising revenue. But there's no way of me sharing that with you because of the people that have contributed to the success of that page, which should be. I mean, you should, as a moderator or as a student should be incentivized to actually contribute and to receive a reward for the contribution that you've done. We can't do that at the moment with dollars and cents. But we can tie the endpoint of the content and the contribution together with a smart contract, and we can actually reward that to people. So that's something that's actually in the pipeline. So that's a different way, apart from you learning. It's just by your contribution to the platform, you could actually create a residual income.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
And so what are some success stories with this platform? What like, do you have anecdotes about how this has changed people's lives by being able to access this information and these lessons?
Yeah, absolutely. Just remember the blockchain side still is in beta, and it's not live to the public at all. So, but the actual English website is live and has been for the last 20 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's just a couple of anecdotes. We've had 310 million users.
Wow.
On the website. It's utilized in 240 countries.
Wow.
The contributors or the moderators, some of them have been around for that length of time. Some of them have got over 100,000 posts, contributions. Right. It's a very engaged English community.
Nice.
And just like having a foundation, which if we do the right things with it, we can actually build a beautiful resource for students for the future. And most of it is free.
Right. So, which is important.
And in fact, at this point in time, everything is free, which is important. So nobody is excluded because they don't have the funding. Except in the future, obviously, if you have tutors and you have paid courses, etc., then there'd need to be a funding element that comes in to actually help those people, to pay for whatever it is. But at this point in time, it's free. And the bulk of that library will be free for forever.
Nice. And so you meet Mr. Key, he helps you with this, and then you help him found Forward Protocol. What is Forward Protocol? Describe that to me.
So Forward Protocol is basically blockchain infrastructure, where it works very much like WordPress. So our tagline might be WordPress for Web3.
Yeah, I've read that. Yeah.
You as a non-technical, so you as a completely non-technical user can come into a library, into a marketplace, and you can select a template, exactly the same as you would in a WordPress setting. And you can customize that template just by dragging and dropping the fields. You can put videos in, you can change your branding, your colors, and set it up pretty much like a web page. And then you can deploy it. And in that particular environment, in the Forward factory, we've got 800 blockchains that are connected. So all of the EVM chains that are actually on, the blockchain list are connected. We've got 5 developer languages that are, so basically the idea there, Dan, is that you could come in, write a contract in Rust, which is the Solana language, upload it into the compiler, and that would sit in the repository in the library, and somebody could select a template on the other side and then deploy it to a blockchain that they want. So it allows a developer they don't have to basically learn a different language. They can use the language they've got, but they can reach a wider audience.
Okay. And so I guess the why are you doing this? What is the benefit to the people who are going to use this technology?
Okay, if you look at history, and I'll go back to WordPress essentially. Before 2003, websites would cost anything between 20 and 50K to actually build a website. It was expensive, and only developers could do it. And then in 2003, WordPress came along, and they said, let's templatize this. So what they did is they flipped the model around. Instead of a developer going out and looking for a client to build a website for 20K, they said, let's add templates in and let the developers build these plugins. So you physically go and customize your own website. And you can do it just by dragging and dropping the different elements. And into a massive infrastructure growing globally with, I mean, it's all history now. I think websites got 43% of the websites online. They definitely are the biggest by a long way. And they've allowed the environment, the ecosystem, they've opened it up for thousands of developers to actually come in and contribute and create an income for themselves, a livelihood out of that ecosystem.
Right.
So it's an ecosystem which works together where the best product, the best plugins rise to the top via reviews, via ratings, via recommendations. And you can select those and check those. And you can actually customize and build a website. So when we were thinking about this process, now I remember where we are in the whole Web3 space is that we really are still early, even though it seems like 10 or 12 years have gone past.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to build a Web3, like a business model to show me what you'd normally do is you'd build a deck, you'd build all this type of thing, and you'd present it to me as an investor. And you'd say, Mitch, do you want to invest in this particular application? It's the same as if you were going to, build a business concept in WordPress. You'd bang out a website, you put it all in. So it's not market ready, but it's ready for an audience to have a look at. You can't actually do that in Web3 at the moment. Right. So what we thought was, imagine when adoption actually comes in. Imagine when they're looking for ways to get to market, to raise funds, to show their concept to the world. What they can do is they can take a couple of hours, they can go into Ford factory, and they can literally customize
Hey, Philip. Are you there, Philip?
Yeah. Yes, I'm here. What?
Are you here? So I just want to check in. Is Mitch cutting out on you too?
Yes. It's just a general internet issue.
Yeah, sorry, Mitch. I wanted to call Philip in because that this last cut was pretty extensive. All right, let's keep going. I just don't know if you have any thoughts, Philip.
On Forward Protocol? Oh
no. On what to do with Mitch's connection. I guess there's nothing we can really do.
There's not much we can do. It's linked with the internet where he is. I think he's on a boat.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's going on.
Oh, that looks better.
Yeah, that does look better. Sorry about that, Mitch. So let's continue on.
It's probably on my side, Dan. I'll give you the background. All right, good.
Yeah.
So essentially, it gives you a way to actually create a business concept and launch it within a couple of hours just by going to Ford factory and customizing a template. So you might say, you know what I want to do is I want to launch a DApp, a new token, and this is what I want to do in this particular business case, and I want to do it for my pizza franchise. You can actually go and do that, create a template, or not create a template, go into the factory, choose a template, and then just customize it. And you could send me the login, and I could actually go and see and use that.
Right. Now, why would I want to make a token for a pizza place?
It's very practical for people.
I mean, what as a business?
It's fun. as a business. You know, it's funny you asked the question. One of the biggest topics at the moment, and I think it's because it's low hanging fruit, is membership and loyalty cards.
Okay.
So like if you think about the airlines and the amount of points and miles they give away and the amount that gets redeemed, there's a big mismatch. And that's a problem that is trying to be solved. It's the same across every single fast food franchise, any place that's trying to incentivize users to do something. So I just picked pizzas as a throwaway, but it's there are lots of different business cases, and it's funny. Like now, when you think about Web3 and you talk to people, the things that they talk a lot about are things like token contracts, DeFi contracts. Right. They talk about staking, that type of thing. But I believe that in time, what is really going to be good for the market is when people actually come up with use cases and templates or dApps.
Yeah.
For existing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So as a guy who came out of real estate, we were dealing with very tangible things like houses, apartment buildings, commercial real estate, office buildings. And now you're in this kind of more, I'm going to say, ethereal world of Web 3.0, right? To me at least, it feels less tangible than like a house. Mentally, how did you make that transition,
The first year I said before I actually met Key, I took a year, and I spent that year
Interesting. Are you still there, Mitch?
Yeah. So I said I basically, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Could you repeat that again? I'm sorry, we lost you there for a second.
Yeah, no problem. So the first year that I started out, before I actually met Key, is I took a year to basically learn, and because I said I was completely offline, I didn't understand it at all. And I think the first year I spent like 1,500 hours learning, doing online courses, speaking to people, interviewing people to try and find out about this world. And in the beginning, I was very, very slow, and it took a lot of time. But slowly, I caught up, and now I'm pretty au fait with most of the things that happen in the industry and can contribute in a meaningful way.
Right.
And I think coming from a maybe more mature business background and more real world background, my contribution is valid because it gives a perspective that somebody like Key possibly doesn't have, because he's been online all his time, all his life. So for him, being an online person is completely natural to him.
Right.
And yet most of the people that are going to be coming into this new Web3 world in time will be people that are running normal businesses, that are trying to figure out how they can adapt this to what they're doing, and they might not be the most technical people.
Well,
so
yeah,
I could bring a lot of that in.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And when we first interviewed Mr. Key, it was on our separate product. We have a different podcast that we do that's on YouTube and other places, and we called it, our premise was, can you explain this blockchain and Web 3.0 space to my grandma? Because my grandma doesn't understand it, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to throw that question to you as somebody who's kind of not a native, but came in and had to learn it. How would you describe this technology if I had to go to my grandma and explain, hey, grandma, I'm working in Web 3.0 and blockchain. What is it? She's like, what is that, Danny? So, help me explain that to my grandmother. Did
So
I
if
cut
I was
out on
going
you this
to,
time?
yeah, no, if I was going to
Oh,
explain
go
it to
on.
your grandma, yeah, essentially when I looked at this, is that everybody made it. So everybody I spoke to just spoke on like a high grade level. It just was not easy for me to understand. But when I distilled it down to something that was easy for me, I just looked at it as a different type of in property and the way I used them. And I realized that this was just a different way for me to store data. And why would I want to store it in a different way? There were a couple of fundamental things that were important to me. It was safer, it was more transparent, and ultimately it could be cheaper if more and more people started using it. I was basically in control of it. And just on that basis, that sort of made sense to me. The next step was to put an interface on that a normal business person could actually come in and use intuitively. So the thing is, we don't want to re-educate you, Dan. You understand how to
Right.
use Google, Facebook, you understand how to use all the tools that you use. If that was the way that you approached Web3, no different, except that your option might be that you want to control your data. So then you'd need to have your own wallet.
Right.
And we can, on the back end, provide you with all the functionality that is more cost effective, it's more transparent, and it's safer for you. It could be an option that you might consider.
Right.
And marrying those two worlds is where I see the big gap in this industry. You have people inside that are very, very smart and they understand they're crypto natives. And you have most of the world. I mean, 95% of the world, 98% of the world sitting outside, hearing rumors about Bitcoin, wondering what it's all about, not too sure. There's no real hard business uses. There's no real business case. And I think that'll come as the market matures. So it's not something we can force. It's like with forward protocol, what we've got is the framework and the actual infrastructure is built. If you came along today and you came and you built an application and you put a template in the marketplace that was useful to every financial planner globally, and they decided this was a better thing to use than whatever they're currently using, and they started using it, you have the potential of having hundreds of thousands of people using your application and you charging whatever you want for it. But
Right.
the maturity is a two-step thing. It's you need more developers that are normal developers, a Web2 developer coming in thinking with a Web3 mindset, and you need a maturity on the Web2 market side that is actually saying we're looking for different ways of owning our data. And once those two fit together, I think you're going to have a boom in templates. That the same as WordPress. It took a long time for it to actually get going. But
Right.
when people started realizing, man, there's something here, then that groundswell happened and the momentum came, and that just lifted the whole environment and created something that was sustainable and could actually be utilized by businesses.
Yeah. And I think, it's interesting as you talk about that because you're right. I mean, most people aren't on block. I mean, when I go to work, I don't hear people talking about blockchain or Web 3.0. It's not at the forefront of conversations. What people do know about are Sam Bankman-Fried and CZ, right? Um, and the scandals around that, right? Because we just had the biggest prosecution of in the crypto space, right? First with Sam Bankman-Fried, but now the CZ case where he's gonna probably serve some prison time and also pay $4 billion to the U.S. government. What are those? How do you feel like those situations are impacting the efforts of you and other people in this space to educate people about Web 3.0?
You know, Dan, I think what you bring up is more the history of money.
Right. Yeah, because it's nothing new under the sun, right? I mean, yeah. It's definitely the
And
history
where
of money.
governments find them. Yeah. So like what we talking about now with CZ and FTX and all that sort of thing, what the SEC is doing, you know, the way they're trying to regulate it, it's nothing new. I mean, this has been going in you know, when the emperor and the Yuan dynasty, on his banknotes, he, you know, had sort of written there, counterfeiters will be beheaded. I mean, the
Right.
SEC is saying you can't print your own tokens. They want some measure of control. And as soon as that happens and it gets regulated, you'll find that they'll loosen the shackles because they can tax it and they can put their hands on it. It's a control mechanism from the government. So, like, people always ask me about, like, when do you think adoption is going to happen? Adoption is going to happen when the governments let it happen, because it is collusion. I mean, they want to control the global monetary supply. And when that happens, we'll find that what I believe is a very useful technology will find its place, and more people will be encouraged. Because, I mean, even though we have all the regulatory control in fiat, we still have massive scams. We still have Ponzi schemes. We still have everything around that, even though those structures have been around for a long time. This is no different. It's just they need to get the structure in place. When the structures are in place, you'll find the mainstream will come in, because now they're not prohibited anymore. And when I say mainstream, the big financial institutions. And when money pours into the space and opportunities created, then all of a sudden you get adoption. Now 1 billion people suddenly move online and they say, right, okay, we're going to start using this technology, and it'll become commercial. So
you think some of these things are actually, it sounds like you see some of these changes that are going to be positive for the Web 3.0 space.
I don't, you know, I don't see it as positive or negative. I just think it's inevitable.
Yes, it
is what it is. You know, like you can't, you know, I always think of it on a scale. When I first came into the industry, you had these Bitcoin maximalists that said banks are bad, hoard your Bitcoin, never use banks, etc. And I thought, like, well, how many people will actually do that? And then on the other side, you have the SEC and everywhere that says crypto's bad, never use crypto. But those two opposing poles are slowly getting closer and closer together. And eventually they'll sit around a table and they will say, you know what, this is how we're going to chop up the pie. And there's enough for everybody. And possibly a better financial system emerges. Because let's face it, the one we're using now at the moment is flawed and broken and does need change. And this could be the change that we need.
Interesting. So do you think if cryptocurrencies are more widely adopted, that it will definitely have an impact on fiat currency and change our thinking about how we manage that currency as well, and potentially maybe even blend in maybe like 100 years or 200 years or so?
Yeah. Well, if you think of progression, like from coins to banknotes, I mean, in the 60s, the credit cards sort of started. And then, I mean, I don't know if you carry much sort of hard currency in your wallet, or if you use more credit cards.
Well, I use my ATM card. That's about it.
Yeah, now look, I mean, you've got your wallet on your phone. It's just a tap and go. You don't even use your physical card. So, you know, for them to substitute a crypto wallet underneath that and to allow you to either choose your dollar account or your Bitcoin account, so long as they can regulate it and tax it, and if the dollar was a virtual dollar and not a physical dollar, I mean, for me, it doesn't seem like a long way off. What seems like a long way off is the regulation. So the mechanism is not far off. And the technology is not far off. I think the regulation's still got a way to go.
Yeah.
And when that happens, everything else will happen. We'll suddenly look back and say, wow, we've actually got a digital dollar and it's this and that, and it's linked to my crypto account, and people will
Yeah, well,
it'll be just part of the
yeah, I could see that.
yeah.
So, but then now within that, even within the crypto space, though, there's controversy around different coins, though, right? So, some people will say Bitcoin's the only legitimate cryptocurrency because it's based on math, and there's only going to be a finite amount. There's a finite amount of Bitcoin that can exist. Whereas other currencies, other coins are I guess maybe you'd call them the maximalists, would say, a lot of these other coins are just illegitimate. They're not. There's nothing behind them. What are your thoughts around that, and how to negotiate those concerns? Uh, did you hear me? You're back. Are you still there, Mitch? Hello. Hey, Mitch. Well, maybe. Hey, Mitch.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Maybe we should
Okay.
just cut this. Okay, maybe we should cut this one short, and we try to reschedule this again, because it seems like you cut out, and I know you're getting a little frustrated. I can hear that. So
Yeah, Dan, I got the gist. Yeah, no problem. What I'll do is, if you'd like, again, very happy to circle back and have a chat to you at another time.
yeah, I apologize for this. Obviously, it's the technology impeding
No, it's not.
us.
I don't think it's on your side. I think it's on my side. They had a big explosion on one of the islands, a dynamite factory or something, and it's hammered all the infrastructure. And
Oh, wow.
it could be that's why I'm having this problem. So it actually happened yesterday. If you go and Google Seychelles explosion, you'll see it happened yesterday. So
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Well, this is the challenge of trying to do these podcasts online, but it's all the benefit is that we get to meet people like you, people from all around the world doing really interesting things. So that's the benefit, but the challenge is always you never know what the technology is going to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you taking the time and inviting me to chat, Dan.
yeah, no, I appreciate what you shared, and I definitely let's reschedule when things are a little bit more worked out and there hasn't been a dynamite explosion.
Okay, good. Yeah, thanks very much. Nice chatting. Have a nice evening.
Yeah, take care, Mitch.